Joining us now, we have Atty. Andres, who's the lawyer who filed the first impeachment complaint against President Bongbong Marcos. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, pleasant morning, Gretchen. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for inviting me.
I know you are a Filipino citizen.
Yes, I definitely am a proud Filipino citizen, and I love my country.
You're probably angry with all the corruption issues coming out of the news.
Yes, and apart from that, I'm also quite bothered by the string of criticisms I've been receiving, scathing remarks, and even threats, actually. Yeah, but I did what I have to do, and I stand by what I've done.
And to take the risk of filing the first impeachment complaint is on a different level altogether.
Of course, yes.
Right? What is your motivation for this? I mean, when did it come to the point that you told yourself, okay, fine, I'm going to file an impeachment complaint against the president?
I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. It's because of the confluence of events that have occurred of late. Because preliminarily, some, especially my critics, are saying, why now? In fact, my answer to that question is, why not? Right? Because there is no proper, had I filed this a year prior, they'd be asking the same thing, they'd be saying the same thing the year before that, even during the first term, the first year of the term of President Marcos. But because of the string of events that for me have the totality of which point to impeachable offenses, the whisking away of former President Duterte, allegations of drug use, graft and corruption, and inaction by the president on those particular acts. For me, the totality had compelled me to say, I think it's time to resort to what's provided in the Constitution to seek accountability from the highest officer of the land.
No, that is indeed the purpose of impeachment,
yes.
Which they say now. Kanina kakausap ko lang kay Professor Tamase,
yes.
Sinasabi na impeachment as a tool for accountability is effectively dead because of how difficult it is now to focus on procedure.
Yes.
And how it could get nipped in the bud even at the House committee level. And so the burden of presenting that evidence on the grounds for impeachment is on you. Are you ready to come out with your piece of evidence when called by the Committee on Justice?
Yes, actually, I already have by filing the impeachment complaint, and appended to which were my own pieces of evidence. Yes, true. There are perhaps better pieces of evidence out there, but Gretchen, I just want to humanize this. I want to contextualize this. I did not initiate proceedings against an ordinary person. I initiated an impeachment complaint against the highest official of our land, who is, as we speak right now, immune from suit. Because had this been an ordinary individual, I filed a case in court, I could resort to all manner of remedies, like subpoena, for instance, to produce documents, to testify. You can't do that with a sitting president. So an impeachment proceeding is not just proper, but perhaps the only way we could exact accountability from the president. Further, on that matter, there's nothing that prevents the House of Representatives to the House Committee on Justice from somehow resorting to means to obtain more evidence, especially considering that a number of the evidence I've referenced pertain to records from the House itself, like appropriations records, for instance, are also within the purview of the House of Representatives. They can actually resort to these, and there are numerous news items, for instance, and prospective testimony from persons who could be reliable witnesses who are willing to come forth to testify and somehow validate the allegations in my impeachment complaint. Yeah.
And who endorsed? Who among the congressmen endorsed your complaint?
Yeah, I used to call him Konsi Jet Nisay, but I call him Kong Jet Nisay. He's a fellow Boscanian. I went to Don Bosco Makati in high school. He's also Boscanian, but from Mandaluyong. So I know him personally, and we're also both from. Well, when I was a teenager, I joined Taugama Phi. And he's also a member of the fraternity from a different chapter. So we have those commonalities, and that was what somehow, perhaps providentially, led me to seek his endorsement of my complaint.
You have 6 grounds for your complaint.
Five, yes.
Five?
I might have said 6, but it's actually 5. And
Let's go to the first one.
Sure.
Included in your impeachment complaint is the alleged ordering and enabling of the kidnapping and surrender of former President Rodrigo Duterte to the International Criminal Court.
yes.
What evidence would you present here?
Oh, there are public documents, and in fact, the better characterization is that there's an absence on the part of government and a particular operative act that they could have resorted to. Let me explain that. Now, it was arguable at first whether the International Criminal Court had a standing warrant against former President Duterte, but by March 11, if memory serves, last year, the warrant was already made public. And here's the surprising thing: the following day, it was already whisked away to The Hague. Now, what I'm trying to say is that on the assumption that that warrant is valid, let's just say it's valid, it is incorrect for government to immediately enforce that ICC warrant without resorting to local processes, such as securing, for instance, a local warrant for the arrest of former President Duterte. I'll tell you this, you don't even have to take my word for it. Even if I had a civil case filed in, say, the District Court of California, and I won there, and there are properties that could be enforced here in the country, I cannot just use that order and enforce it here in the country. I need, in fact, to file a complaint for enforcement of a foreign judgment. You just can't impose a foreign, in this case, an international court's order or a warrant, just like that, without resorting to our local courts, which are still fully functioning. So it's more a case of that inaction. Now, what makes it impeachable, Gretchen, is that the mandate of the president is to ensure that the laws are faithfully executed. Now, one of the fundamental rights of any individual, former president or not, is the right to due process, a constitutional right to due process, that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
But isn't this the subject already of a Supreme Court case filed by, I think, the Vice President and her family? Kumbaga parang wala pang desisyon doon yung Korte Suprema. And so, we're not going to get an answer on this. I know, that's a long debate.
There is a parallelism to that. Because some critics some learned individuals in the community are saying that this might be akin to an extradition. It's not exactly extradition, because an extradition, you have a requesting state asking a requested state for the surrender of the person within their territory or jurisdiction to the requesting state's jurisdiction to be tried or to continue a sentence. That's not the case here, because it's the ICC, not a state that's requesting the surrender of former President Duterte. And I'm also aware that in the twin cases of Secretary of Justice versus Lantion, the Supreme Court had said that, pardon me, that an extraditee is not entitled to notice during the evaluation stage. I get it. It makes sense. I mean, that would be an incentive for flight. But you cannot...
As is what is happening to Senator Bato de la Rosa, who cannot be found.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's precisely what incentivized him perhaps to hide from authorities, but that's a different story altogether. I'm not concerned with him. But the point is this, even within that parallelism, yeah, true, it incentivizes flight, right? But you cannot dispense with the process altogether. You still have to resort to local remedies. You cannot just pluck out a former president from his seat and place him on a plane to The Hague, which is exactly what happened here. We're not saying that he should not be held accountable. What we're saying is that there's nothing that prevented government from resorting to all these mechanisms.
That's true, but that's already in the Supreme Court. Why include it in the impeachment complaints?
No, because whatever is... to be candid, I have not read the petition of the Duterte family on this particular matter. But here's the thing, Gretchen. Whatever it was filed with the Supreme Court, if best case is a reversal of the act, it does not effectuate the exacting of accountability from a sitting president. It might result in the reversal of the act. It might result in the declaration that the act was illegal. But it does not directly exact accountability from the very person helming the executive department, helming our government, because of what was done. And it is no secret that the executive was behind this particular act of whisking the former president away to The Hague.
Okay, let's go to your next ground for impeachment, which is the president allegedly being a drug addict, which impairs his judgment and leadership. What's your evidence on this?
Well, okay, that's a good question. I'd like to jump the proverbial gun by saying, because a lot of these so-called political analysts, there's so many ignorant posts so far. These political analysts, I'm very close to deliberately mispronouncing that word, but sorry about that. It's probably not proper for TV, but. They're saying, this particular allegation is weak. There's no medical certificate, so on and so forth. Again, we're talking about the very same person who has control over his departments, who has, and Gretchen, this is not something that you do.
That's true,
in
but
public.
do you have evidence of drug use and drug addiction? It's as simple as that.
Yes, I do.
What kind of evidence?
Okay. I'll get to my own nail on the coffin, so to speak. Okay, so there have been allegations of his drug use. Yeah, fine, that's nothing. That could be a rumor. You have his sister, who has had privity of relations with him for at least 3 decades, pre and post EDSA, validating publicly that he is a user of drugs. And here's the clincher, Gretchen. Considering all these facts with which he was confronted, and when he was asked, hey, could you submit yourself to a drug test? None. Even in criminal law, Gretchen, a confluence of circumstances could convict. And I'm not sure if I have the time for this, but I'd like to take this occasion, Gretchen, considering that I'm a complainant in an impeachment complaint. I'd like to personally address, and take this opportunity in your show, I'd like to personally address Senator Atty. Marcos, because I had relied heavily on her statements that precisely because of her relations with the president, that her brother not only uses but is addicted to drugs. Manang Senator Atty., huwag niyo pong batikusin ang aking ginagawa. Bagkus, tulungan niyo ako. If what you're saying is true, that your brother uses or is worse, addicted to prohibited drugs, then please execute a statement under oath on pain of perjury to that effect. Because by then you shall have put me on better footing to have your brother impeached. I'd like, sorry.
So you're asking the sister of the president to testify against her brother to substantiate your ground for impeachment.
Oh, wait, not just my ground, to substantiate her previous statement that her brother is using drugs.
This is another step to officially testify and take an oath,
yes,
and present evidence.
That's true, and thank you for asking that, because prior to the impeachment complaint, there was no such opportunity to do that. Because, again...
So you haven't reached out to her office to be able to secure that?
It's right now, at this juncture, considering her posturing, she's dismissing this complaint based on her grounds. She's dismissing this as drama. I have no reasonable expectation that if I knocked on the doors of her office at the Philippine Senate, that she'd welcome me with open arms and say, Attorney De Jesus, here it is. That's the reason why I'm putting public pressure on her, using your show, Gretchen, to actually reach out to her and plead with her. Manang Atty. Marcos, please back up your statement. Help me have your brother impeached.
But if you're relying on the weight of her testimony to substantiate this, shouldn't you have reached out first to her office? Because I don't think alleging that somebody's a drug addict is hard to prove, right? It's based on fact. It's objective. You have medical tests. You need evidence. Whether object evidence, whether it's a CCTV video, whether it's more testimonial evidence. For now, you only have the sister of the president.
Absolutely, Gretchen, and thank you for raising that, because only rock stars go out and snort coke in public and flaunt it. Our president is not like that, right? And crimes intrinsically are clandestinely committed, right? And that's precisely the burden I face.
But that's what people over at the House Committee on Justice will ask you for. What's your evidence? What evidence do you have that this is true?
Whatever I've already submitted, which are the reports, the statements, and the inaction of the president to debunk these particular allegations. And that is admissible as evidence, Gretchen, when you have an opportunity to debunk a particular statement against you, when you have an opportunity to do so and you don't, that can be taken as evidence against you. We're not talking about an ordinary individual here. He's the president of the Philippines. He must prove to us that he is fit to actually govern our nation as president of the Republic
But
of the Philippines.
unwillingness to undergo a drug test is not admission to taking drugs.
Oh,
like,
quite-
I could just say I don't want to take this test, but it is highly possible I don't take drugs.
Yes, and
That was a dare, and the president responded negatively to that dare. It isn't really exactly an admission, right?
It is-
How
I
would
get your
that
point.
hold in court?
I get your point. Gretchen, well, perhaps not you. You're a celebrity, right? But if it were an ordinary individual, I'd say, hey, if you're not hiding anything, just go through the test. This is a different story altogether. But
Pag hindi ka nag-test, baka addict ka, ganon.
yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. You are aware, however, in government, for instance, that random drug testing is being conducted, right? Even ordinary individuals whose names were picked from a raffle or from a fishbowl of some sort are subjected to drug testing. The highest official of our land, who helms the executive branch of our government, has been accused of being a drug user by no less than his sister, who's a sitting senator herself. And there is no attempt by him to debunk all these allegations. He has the duty to debunk these allegations because he, as a public official, the highest public official, we have reposed the highest trust in him. So he has to preserve that trust. Even the appearance of violating the trust has to be addressed, Gretchen. So that's my position on the matter. I have a right to demand from him proof that he is still fit. It's not the other way around that yeah, of course I need to back up my allegations. But now that these allegations are brought to the fore, then he has the obligation, the duty to preserve the trust, to prove that these are not true. I'm still fit to govern.
Well, the first two grounds that we mentioned, the alleged drug addiction of the president, and the second one, the kidnapping and surrender of the former president to the ICC.
Yes.
These are narratives trumpeted by the Duterte side. And so there are those who doubt your intention over filing of the impeachment. They say that this was designed to fail. I know you've gotten that question a lot of times. But in the absence of object evidence, didn't it make sense to just leave this out altogether? Kasi yung isa nasa Supreme Court, yung isa naman inaantay mo pa sa sister ng presidente. Why not just stick with the infrastructure corruption and unprogrammed appropriations issues?
Okay, I have two levels of response to that one. Number one, regarding why did I include these two, considering that, well, it's potentially flimsy or already pending with the court. I did mention earlier, Gretchen, that whatever relief that might be granted by the Supreme Court regarding the petition filed by the Duterte family, I have not read the petition, would not result in the exacting of accountability that I want to be accomplished in this particular impeachment complaint. Okay, but regarding the criticisms about the complaint, and especially my motivations, my potential political leanings, right? I've had two staunch critics who've come out. Number one is Congressman Atty. of Caloocan, and the second one is Attorney Ferdy Topacio, who had lawyered for Mike Defensor and Chavit Singson in what should have been a third impeachment complaint. Atty. never filed an impeachment complaint, so I'm actually wondering why he's been crying bloody hell about the supposed weakness of my complaint when he himself has nothing to show for. He himself has not filed his own complaint. If he actually felt that he could have done a better job, then he could have done so, but he didn't. But what's actually worse is the case of Attorney Topacio, because he went public and said and criticized he said it's 4 pages. It's not true. It's actually 14 pages plus annexes. He bragged about his 44-page complaint. He bragged about suitcases of evidence of a case they never filed. Now, it's not. They're complaining that the Secretary General was not around when they attempted to file, but that was the same case with Makabayan. But Makabayan had filed 2 days ago. They did not, right? So they had every opportunity to actually do a better job if they felt not up to, I mean, it would not pass constitutional or evidentiary muster. But they could have done a better job, but they didn't. So I would rather take my weak complaint that was filed than an allegedly strong complaint that just remained in their shelves.
But as a lawyer, don't you go to the front lines with your best defense? Doesn't that have some sort of a vulnerability that gives a possibility that this might be dismissed when assessed in sufficiency of form and substance, which is the next step to this?
That's right, because the two complaints had already been referred to the House Committee on Justice. But that's the thing, Gretchen. There's nothing that prevents the committee, in particular, plenary in general, from itself conducting hearings and obtaining evidence regarding this matter. I might have a reasonable expectation of being invited as well as a resource person there. In other words, now that the complaints have been referred to the House Committee on Justice, the House Committee on Justice has that much leeway, if not prerogative, to obtain more evidence by holding hearings. Attorney De Jesus backed this up. Then I could also have an opportunity to present more evidence during those preliminary
So
hearings.
you're expecting for their help in collecting evidence?
I wouldn't say, well, help in the sense that they would pave the way for an avenue through which I could do that. Yes.
And for the sister of the president to take up your challenge, no?
Yes.
Okay, final question. We don't have time, no? How do you expect your complaint to be consolidated with the Makabayan Bloc's complaint? Theirs mostly focused on the BBM parametric formula and the infrastructure corruption. How do you expect that to go down?
Oh, well, it's the beauty behind this. I have not read their complaint, but based on anecdotes on what they have submitted or postulated in their own impeachment complaint, I think if I were I'm not a sitting congressman. I have no experience in Congress, but I think intuitively it might make sense for them to not just consolidate it, but somehow also consider these arguments as complementing each other for the purpose of coming up with a united front to impeach the president.
And so we await
So wait and see, Gretchen.
the hearings of the Committee on Justice, and they will begin on February 2. We do expect you to be there.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about
We'll
that.
see. And the sister of the president, let's see if she responds to your challenge. So in the meantime, maraming salamat for joining us.
Thank you so much. But
On your end.
just 3 seconds. So Justice and Vera, I love you. Thank you for watching.
Maraming salamat. The filer of the first impeachment complaint
Thank you.
against President Bongbong Marcos, we have Attorney Andre De Jesus.